Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of our Verdana Bold resource guide for data visualization. If you're already following this content, I just want to say welcome back. Or, if it's your first time here, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to look at another existing infographic and figure out a few simple steps we can take to improve it. It's my hope that you'll be able to take the things you learn here and apply them to your own content. Let's get started. As always, when I look to improve a graphic like this, I like to take a high-level view first. The first thing I notice is that there's two tables. And so what I want to avoid is having the audience bounce their eyes back and forth to compare data. So that's something we're going to consider as we get into the redesign. My plan is to make some content changes to this version of the infographic and have that serve as a sketch for a redesigned slide. But before we walk through those changes, I'd like to share 3 tips I think will help streamline this infographic. 1. Adjust the language to be simple and clear, especially with chart titles. 2. Eliminate data that doesn't affect the story. 3. Pop key visual elements to guide the audience. Focusing in on some of the specific areas of content, I want to start by looking at the title. Based on results, estimate approximately 8,500 coyotes in southern Chicago. I find this title a little clunky to say out loud, and I think we can make it slightly more conversational while also making it easier to understand. I'm going to go ahead and change this. There are an estimated 8,500 coyotes living in South Side Chicago. I think this new title is both easier to say and read. I also changed Southern Chicago to South Side Chicago to better reflect the way Chicagoans speak about their own geography. Whenever I encounter a somewhat dense infographic like this, I want to make sure that everything on the page is working as hard as it can. So I'm going to go through and strip out some of the language and make it as clear as possible before we start our redesign. I'm going to change the title on the left table to say, "We counted 136 coyotes on approximately 221 miles driven." At this point, we can go ahead and delete the corresponding subtitle and the rule above it. Our goal here is just to create a clear sketch that we can use to inform our new design. Next, as I start to read and understand the table on the left, I can see that the coyote seen on the north side is negligible at best, and that's probably why the slide focuses on the south side. To that point, the way these two middle columns are currently highlighted, I think it invites comparison between northern and southern Chicago. Which reminds me, I'm going to change these to north side and south side. I think instead we should choose to highlight the south side of Chicago to help guide our viewer. Next, I want to take a look at the sentence below the table. Also reported by residents while walking through Southside Chicago parks and forest preserves. I can tell they're trying to clarify how they collected the data, but when every little piece counts, I don't think this serves the overall story enough to keep, so I'm going to delete this. Next, I want to take a look at the title on the right. What does it mean? Approximately 8,700, I think this is supposed to be 8,500. Approximately 8,500 coyotes in southern Chicago. Observations extrapolated based on road mileage to estimate total coyotes in Chicago. That's a bit of a mouthful. I think there's actually some helpful information here, and since this is basically going to detail what we're talking about in the table, I'm going to flip the hierarchy here. I'm actually going to delete this. And I'm going to simplify the language here a little bit. Extrapolated estimate based on total mileage and unseen multiplier. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned how I want to make the two sides look different, so the audience isn't tempted to compare the charts back and forth. Most of this will be handled during the redesign of this slide, but I want to cut some content where I can. For starters, I'm simply going to delete the Northern Chicago column on the right side graphic. And I want to make sure that my language is consistent. This will be handled in design, but I really want to pump this up. Next, I want to take a look at what's below. Math shown is simplified, but representative based on approaches endorsed by, and then I see they have a logo for the World Health Organization and the WSPA. This context is helpful to establish credibility, but in the overall design, I'm going to choose to treat it like a footnote. Also, this footnote at the bottom is currently designed to look like the main takeaway of the slide, But if you consider the message, it's quite parenthetical, and I'm going to relegate that to a footnote as well. Okay, at this point, I feel like our sketch is ready for redesign. I'm going to spare you from having to watch me do that, so we're going to fast forward to the end result. Okay, and here's where we landed with the infographic. On the left, we've simply cleaned up the table, and as I mentioned, we highlighted the Southside Chicago row to focus in on the most relevant data. Also, side note, can we just talk about this cute coyote icon for a minute? Although it may seem decorative, I did want to add a small visual cue that helps prime the audience to realize we're talking about coyotes. Because the data on the right is extrapolated, I added more coyotes to this side than I did to the left. As I mentioned when I was sketching, I really wanted to pump up the 8,500 coyotes, which is the main takeaway of the slide, and so you can see that here. Also, I want to caution against simplifying too much. In this case, I think it's important to show the work and how they arrived at this figure, so I included the equation down here. And lastly, I mentioned taking a couple of the takeaways at the bottom and treating them more like parenthetical footnotes. It's still important to map them, so I chose to number the footnotes. But now, for those who care to dive in, they provide additional context without competing too much of the graphic. And there you have it. With just a few simple steps, we've made this slide a lot easier to understand at a glance. And just to recap, we adjusted some of the language to be simple and clear, especially in chart titles. We eliminated the data that doesn't affect the story, and we popped key visual elements to help guide the audience to the most important information. If you found this helpful, give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. I wish you all the best of luck in taking some of the things we talked about here and applying them to your own content. It might take a little practice, but I'm confident you can start creating killer infographics in no time. Thanks for watching, and check back soon for more videos.